Hello, welcome to the Lone Show. I'm your host, John Lone, and in this episode, I've brought on regular Faithy, who will join us shortly. As for our guest, he's from Saratoga Springs, New York, I presume. And what he does, he helps people. And yeah, that's about it. But what kind of helping he does? Well, that's what we're about to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Joe Templin.
Thank you, my friend. Hope that you're having a wonderful day over there.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, how's life?
Life is interesting. Life is meant to be messy. You know, when we try and bubble wrap it and sterilize it, we remove all of the lows from it, but we also remove all of the joys and the highs. And so the best way to truly experience life is to roll up your sleeves and really get dirty and expose yourself to the good and bad.
Okay. And have you been up to much recently?
Let's see. Not as much as I normally would at this point. As you know, I'm an ultra marathoner, and last year, this week, I did my first ultra, was a double marathon. And then I did a 100-kilometer one in October. I was training to do 125 this weekend, actually, but I separated my ankle, sprained my ankle, and broke my leg. So running is not on the menu right now.
Okay. Now, tell me more about what you do.
So if you look at what I do across all my businesses and the coaching and the writing and everything, it really comes down to one concept. I help people. I help people clarify and achieve their goals and dreams in alignment with their feelings and philosophies. But what I'm really doing in a lot of ways is I'm helping people to create their personal vision of what excellence means to them and unlocking it. And as it says in the Bible, a people without a vision will perish. And too many people are lacking in a vision of what they want to accomplish, of having goals and dreams that drive them. And too often they're just externally motivated to get that bigger car or to, impress 500 people with, an Instagram post or whatever. So helping them to find something that is truly meaningful to them that will then motivate them to make the little decisions that ultimately improve their life.
Wow. Okay. Nice. And do you like doing that for people?
Like is too weak of a word, in my opinion. It is what I do. It is in my blood, it is in my bones, it is in my DNA. So I live it, I breathe it. Last night or yesterday, my first podcast that I was on to talk about this was at I get up at 4:30ish to train and research beforehand. So I worked out and did all that, then had those podcasts. And I went straight till 10 p.m. And I was tired, but it was a good sort of tired. I'm back up and at it again. And today's going to be another 10. Today's going to be a short day. It's only going to be 10 hours because of the holiday weekend. But that's what you do when you're fired up. As Arnold Schwarzenegger said, he did not need discipline because he loved what he was. Every single rep, every single squat, every single movement was building towards his ultimate goal, something that he wanted so badly that it didn't matter what was in the way. He was going to overcome it. And if you look, 95% of have nothing like that. In fact, something like 80 to 85% of people hate what they do for a living. And so it's being able to find that driving passion, those things that you truly care about, even if they're not within your work, because then you can use work to help sustain what you're doing with that. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was working full-time as a construction worker while training for the Mr. Universe contest and attending classes and all that. So if you, as Friedrich Nietzsche says, if you have a strong enough why, you will be able to overcome any how. So having something that is that important to you, you're going to figure out a way to make it happen.
Okay, interesting. Do you it independently, or do you have like a certain business that you operate?
I've got my consulting firm, so I do this for corporations and agencies and training them about will set and skill set. So unlocking that component. And I do a lot of speeches for organizations where I'm coming on in to associations and companies to speak about unlocking excellence, finding those pearls of excellence in your day to be able to string together. And then, of course, there's the book, which is the way that I can reach the most people possible between that and podcasting like this. So I can talk to wonderful individuals like you and help reach your audience and help them unlock their internal excellence.
Okay, great. With all the and with the support that you provide to people, what have been the high and low points of it?
Well, the low point, I can tell you, because it's something that I see over and over again, is when I or other people care more about somebody than they do. So, for example, I've got a lot of financial planners that I advise, and they have some of these people that they're working with who just quite frankly don't give a damn about their future, who would rather spend all their money on beer and chips than on setting aside a little bit to be able to have a better future. And or the person who's still smoking even though they just had a heart attack, and they're unwilling to stop even though they've got grandkids that they want to see be able to grow up, but they are unwilling to trade the current moment of pleasure for a better future. And so I see that over and over and over again. That is by far the most frustrating component of what I do. There's something called the Michelangelo phenomenon, where coaches have this a lot, where Michelangelo looked at the block of marble and saw the David in there, and then he just removed everything that wasn't part of the David in his image and unleashed the beauty within that block of marble. And the Michelangelo phenomenon is when coaches or planners or individuals like that look at another person and we see the potential, we see the inner beauty, we see what they could become if they're willing to do the work. And so there's numerous examples of great athletes who were unwilling to do the work, and yeah, they might have made it to the big leagues, to the Premier League, whatever, and made some money, but they never got close to being as incredible as they could be. And so that missed potential is by far the greatest disappointment that I have in terms of what I do. However, on the flip side, when you can find that person, that diamond in the rough, and you help them cut and polish themselves, and they have to do the work, you get them to see what you see, you get them to see with your eyes their potential, and they then go about doing the hard daily work of basically polishing themselves. All of a sudden down the road, you have this incredible gem, and it shines for the entire world to see. And that, but my friend, that's the highlight of what I do.
Right. Amazing. So, what was life for you growing up?
I'd say I was a typical kid, but that would be, my bias coming on in. I'm one of six kids, second of six. I have an older Irish twin. My mom was a former nun farm kid who became a college instructor. My dad was Army and then started a consulting firm. I grew up, as I said, out in farm country working on a farm. I was severely asthmatic, so I was actually legally dead at 10 years old, which is probably part of the reason why I'm so driven and passionate, because when you get a second chance, you don't waste any of those 86,400 seconds that we get. I started college at 12 or 13 because my parents said 12 was too young. and started studying Taekwondo at about 13 also. And I've been doing that for my entire life since then. And that is one of the key learning spaces for me, if you will, because that's where I had my first images of excellence. That's where I learned about hard work and discipline and overcoming obstacles and pain, going beyond your normal limits, which is something that came into effect when I was in grad school, and also building companies and doing ultra marathons. So I had a really good childhood in a lot of ways. As Wilbur and Orville Wright said, the best way to become successful is to grow up in rural Ohio with great parents. So I grew up in upstate New York as opposed to rural Ohio, but I had really good models that supported and pushed me. And we didn't have all the TVs and the screens and the iPads and all this other stuff. So we had to go figure it out on our own. And that is one of the best arenas or the best schools for learning about stuff, is having to amuse yourself and to, as my mom said, figure it out.
Okay, nice. Other than what you do, helping people, what do you do in your free time?
In my copious free time, as my friends joke, as I said, I run ultra marathons and Ragnars. Ragnars are 200-mile-ish team relay races over a 36-hour period. So I do the very endurance-oriented things like that. Do my martial arts. I'm also a Cub Scout leader. So I hang out with 5 to 10-year-old boys, and we talk about dinosaurs and rocks and Minecraft and stuff like that. And so that keeps me young in a lot of ways. I'm also the vice president of our local autism society. I have 2 special needs children. So trying to educate others on the needs of non-neuronormal children and making the world a better place for them so that they have the opportunity to succeed is something that is very close to my heart.
That's nice. So, do you ever travel often?
With COVID, obviously, we were all stuck at home, which created its own incidents. But before COVID, I had actually gone and ramped up my speaking. I had actually just signed a deal to do 50 more talks a year someplace in the United States. And then COVID hit, and that completely shut it down. So I'm looking forward to actually getting back on the road again so I can get out there and talk to more people and help them discover what's important to them and what drives them, so that hopefully I can light some fires under some people's butts.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite season?
Baseball season.
Cool.
I'm a diehard Yankees fan, so the fact that the season was delayed this year because they were negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement really upset me. And when COVID hit and they had that incredibly short season, baseball flubbed it. They had an opportunity to be literally the only game in town, but the owners and players could not come to the table to do what was right for the fans. And so they're in danger of losing a lot of people, because baseball is a slower sport than, say, American football or soccer or hockey or skating or X Games. It's not a quick hit, give me my dopamine fix sort of sport. It's slow. It's based in the agrarian background, and it's one of those things where you make memories across generations, whether it's going to Yankee Stadium with my father or taking my kids. Or the other day I was talking with my 11-year-old about when I went to opening day at the Yankee Stadium a couple of years ago, and my friend who passed on last year. And so we were talking all about that. And so as they say in the movie Field of Dreams, it's down the generations, father to son, and mothers too, because my mom was a huge Yankees fan. So it's this somewhat pause in the hectic world that we have that is really attracts me to baseball, and the fact that there's always another game, because there's 162 in a season. So no one game matters that much on the positive or the negative side. So it's actually a very good stoic exercise. And you can listen to the games while you're doing other things. Baseball is meant for the radio. It's not necessarily something you have to sit there on your butt watching. So I can listen to a game while I'm out running 20 miles, or I can do it while I'm working on the farm or something like that. And so it allows you to still participate and enjoy, but multitask and get other things that are important to your life done.
Okay. Cool. So, if there's a country that you haven't been to yet, which country you have been to yet that you really want to go to?
Now, unfortunately, I have not traveled nearly as much as I want to. So this is actually, I'm glad that you're asking this, because I got divorced during the pandemic. And so part of my post-divorce plan is, what am I going to do in terms of going places? And number one on my list, after I get a chance to go back up to Canada and do some stuff up there, because the Canadian border was closed for the entire pandemic, is I'm going to Ireland. I'm going to Ireland. I'm going to sit in a pub. I'm going to have a Guinness. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write for a couple of hours back on the old sod and just soak it on in.
Great. That's nice.
And then the next one is I'm going to Tahiti. I'm living in a grass hut for a couple of days. I'm drinking, fruity drinks, and have to put on my SPF 5000 because I will burst into flames with my good Irish German skin. I'm half vampire, I swear. And I'm going to just sit there. I'm going to enjoy the sound of the water and doing almost nothing for a handful of days, because that is not something that is in my nature. And so I'm going to force myself to completely deplug.
Okay. That's a really good plan. Ireland, Tahiti, yeah, that great diversity of options in terms of traveling. Would you rather be really hot or really cold?
I'd rather be hot any day. I actually, last year, we did, my running team, a race, the 101-100. So it's 100 miles in roughly 12 hours. And it was like 88 degrees. And I was doing the longest leg in this. It was probably a 9-mile leg. I did 25 miles that day. And it was 88 degrees and 95% humidity. We were waiting for the thunderstorm to come in. Never did. And that was, to me, awesome running conditions. I live in upstate New York, so we have probably 4 or 5 days a year where it's minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And, it's cold and nasty for 4+ months out of the year. I can always bundle on up, and I'm used to it. But I would rather have an 85-degree day any day of the year.
Oh, yes. That would be great. What bad habits do you want to get rid of?
Oh, I got lots of them. So one of the things that I do is I actually have a process where I will cycle through giving up a bad habit for a month, or adding something in. So for example, 1 month I gave up all processed sugar. So, that meant no chocolate, no donuts, no candy, none of that. Another month I gave up soda. And I actually, after that month, which I did a couple of years ago, I basically haven't touched soda since then. But the thing is, I really love cheeseburgers and I love donuts. Give me a Boston cream donut and I'm in heaven. So I gave up donuts for Lent. So I haven't had a donut in 38 days now. And yes, I'm counting down to having that first donut.
Wow. That takes a lot of gut, actually.
But here's the thing. When I have that first donut, it is going to be the most beautiful thing in the world at that moment. So this is where abstinence makes the heart grow, or absence makes the heart grow fonder, or abstinence makes it better. Being able to say, okay, I truly enjoy this one thing. I'm going to give it up and to work on my discipline muscles for a limited period of time. So it's not, I'm never having another Guinness again, or I'm never, going to a Yankees game again, or I'm never having another donut. It's, I'm going to give this up for this limited period of time to exercise my willpower. And so that when I do have it again, I appreciate it more. That's why the first game of the season went on opening day for baseball is so incredible, simply because we haven't had it for 5 or 6 months. And so you build up that desire and that respect and that So same thing like in a relationship. If you don't see your sweetie for 4 or 5 days because they're traveling and they come on home, that first hug and kiss, you remember how much you missed them.
Wow. Okay. And how many more days left do you have until you can eat your Boston bagel again?
Let's see. It's 7:22 in the morning now. So it's 28 hours, 39 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Not that I'm counting or anything.
Okay. Okay. It's pretty good actually. I like that.
So, and then we'll see if I have the willpower to that morning say, no, I'm not going to go and buy donuts for another hour, even though I can, because that's when the real willpower comes on in. When you can do it, when you desperately want it, and you put it off for a little bit longer just to, I don't want to say torment yourself, but just to do that personal flex of, okay, I can hang on for a little bit longer. And this is one of the things that, like, in training for ultra marathons or actually doing ultra marathons, because like in an ultra, unless you're an elite runner, which I most certainly am not, you're not running the entire time. You're walking parts of it. I mean, because you're going 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers. So if you can say, all right, I'm going to keep running for an extra 15 seconds, an extra 30 seconds before I walk, then it is those little choices that add up and have some pretty huge effects on your life. Same thing like, if you're studying, I'll study for an extra 10 minutes. That's not the hugest deal in the world, but it builds your discipline around it. And that extra 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there can be the difference between failing the course or getting a good grade.
Sorry, something came up. We may have to cut this short or whatever, but
okay,
that's all we have for this episode. It was great. It was great having you, Joe, about talking about what you do, helping people, and et cetera, et cetera. It was great.
Hey, I wish we had more time, but I understand life happens. So go do what you got to do, my friend. Be excellent and grow today.
All right, will do. And until next time, stay tuned for more.